Hello and welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And thank you so much for being here. As always, I really appreciate it. And as always, I have a spectacular guest with me today. His name is Daniel Packard. He is an anxiety solution pioneer and a UC Berkeley mechanical engineer who turned his painful 10-year-long battle with severe anxiety into a mission to engineer a permanent solution for anxiety. After 8 years of research and testing, of course, I did mention he is an engineer, so that's where that comes in. Daniel and his research developed the world's only permanent anxiety solution program with a 90% success rate. And because he is so passionate about achieving results, his company is the only emotional health company in the world where clients only pay at the end once their anxiety is completely resolved. Daniel also has 15 years experience as a stand-up comedian, so this should be a lot of fun. Daniel, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
It's an honor to be here. Thanks for the intro. As I was listening, I was like, wow, who is this amazing guy? Oh, it's me.
Right?
I'll take
Yeah.
that. I wish everybody had an intro every morning. I go on a lot of podcasts. I get an intro. It's like, all right, I feel seen. But I wish everybody, what if every morning it was like, and waking up now is Jenny. Jenny is incredible at making smoothies and following through. Give it up for Jen. I mean, everyone just needs. So, Jenny, if you're out there, there's your intro. Thank you for the intro.
I absolutely love that idea, and I think I'm gonna start doing that, or I remember seeing, oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of the movie, All That Jazz, that's what it was, and, he would look in the morning or look in the mirror every morning after he did his eye drops and popped a couple of pills and stuff, and he would say, "It's showtime," and that's how he would start his day.
I think that's wonderful. Well, this won't be highly polished, but ladies and gentlemen, coming to the podcast now, hailing from the great state of Colorado, with excellent fashion sense and looking yummy, please give it up for Cheryl. Oh my
Ah.
God, we love you, Cheryl.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to record that and play it every single morning. So thank you for that. So
I just gave
Daniel,
you a ringtone.
you did. Oh my goodness. Yeah. You're brilliant. You are an engineer. So the fact that, and right now the listeners are probably thinking, okay, these two people are a little out there, but the fact that you can heal your own anxiety, or anxiety is permanently, you can resolve it permanently through your program, is absolutely giving so many people hope for their future, because anxiety can be so crippling.
Thank you for appreciating it. It is incredible. And it's sad that it's incredible because we all deserve just solutions. A lot of things in this world, we have solutions. When you break your bone, they have a solution. They put a cast. I hurt my knee when I was in my 20s trying to impress a girl with a dance move. I thought I could flip off a wall. Turns out I couldn't. I blew out my knee. Went to the doctor, MRI, ACL was blown out. Fixed the ACL. My knee is back, solved. Take your car. They solve your engine. Go to a landscaper. Solutions are what we experience in the world, and it's what we deserve. It just comes to emotional health. They haven't figured out how to make a solution. So yes, it is incredible, but it's sad that it's incredible because we should have had a solution a long time ago. So I hope that what we've discovered becomes the new normal. All things innovate. This is innovative, and I hope that solving anxiety 30 years from now isn't incredible. It just becomes what we expect. But in the meantime, yeah, it's incredible. And it's incredible not just because we pulled it off, but to your audience, I want to be clear that we discovered that really anxiety it's just a symptom of feeling unsafe. And when you feel unsafe, you may feel it as anxiety, but it can also show up as insecurity, self-doubt, fear of rejection, fear of failure, insecurity. It's all just different words to label. I don't feel so safe inside. And so I'll be sharing this information and explaining to your audience how we solved anxiety, but really it applies. If you say, well, I don't have anxiety, but yes, I have fear of rejection, fear of failure, insecurity, self-doubt, it will apply to that. And the reason it matters is because whether it's anxiety, fear of rejection, yeah, your audience has these fears and anxieties.
Mhm.
And not only does it limit you, not only does it keep you from the life you want and being the person you want and showing up the way you want, and you can't be happy as you want to be because you can't be afraid and happy simultaneously.
Mhm.
One's got to go. Uh, there's no solutions. So you're always managing it.
Mhm.
That's even more sad. It's not
Mhm.
the thing, it's that no one's, so your audience is managing it all the time. And we've tolerated management and just accepted it. But that would be like if you're in a boat and it's sinking, and someone says, hey, here's a bucket and you have to keep bailing every day. It's like, okay, it's better than sinking, but like then you spend your whole life just bailing all the time. And wouldn't
Mhm.
your audience like to know how to just like take all that energy into just like overcoming the fear and anxiety and use all that
Mhm.
energy to just start living? And so I want to if your audience, if you've been managing fear and anxiety, which you have because no one has a solution,
Mhm.
that's great. I'm proud of you. It's better than nothing. But what I want to share with you is how it's possible and even simple to solve it permanently so that you can just feel free. And I also want you to understand how to solve anxiety by understanding why you haven't solved it yet. And the reason I want your audience to know this is because when you can't solve fear and anxiety, you start to blame yourself and you think there's something wrong with me and you blame yourself. What's wrong with you? Why am I like this? There's nothing wrong with you. The experts you trusted couldn't figure it out and they weren't honest. And so you're blaming yourself for the failure. It's
Mhm.
not your fault. And then I'm going to show you how to solve it so that you can break this cycle of managing it all the time and just be free of it, because we don't want to spend our lives bailing a boat. You want the boat to sail, get you to the beach so you can have a margarita and chill. So if you just want to keep managing your fear and anxiety and keep spending money on the books and the videos and the retreats, but always having it, this thing that's been following you around since probably high school,
Mhm.
probably you should tune out now if you want to know how to be really free of this so that you can live an even fuller, more incredible life. That's what's about to go down.
There are so many points that you brought up that I want to highlight because that was just a fascinating and wonderful explanation. But the fact that you're talking about energy, you're bailing that boat out, you are wasting so much energy. And anxiety really is an energy suck because it's always kind of like knocking on the door, going, hey, don't forget me. I'm here. I'm here. And when you don't address it and find a solution to it, it takes on a life of its own. And just it's like a snowball going downhill. You know, I live in the Rocky Mountains. Yeah, it's like an avalanche then. It eventually is just crashing down on you. And the fact that you keep saying solution, and as an engineer, and I know a few of them, not a lot, but as an engineer, I know that you're always looking, you're so solution oriented. So is that what propelled you to create and do your research into this program, or was it your own personal experience?
Cheryl, I feel so seen. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Because people will say to me, well, wait a minute, you're not a psychologist, a therapist, you're an engineer. What are you? And I was like, well, if the therapists, psychologists, and spiritual teachers had solved this, then yeah, you wouldn't need us. But they're not solving it. Not because they're bad people, because this was not easy to solve.
Mhm.
So you go to problem solvers, and it's a certain training, it's a certain mindset. Edison, this famous inventor, I think it was like 1,000 prototypes. It's a certain a way of approaching and problem solving, and not everyone's good at it or knows how to do it. So
Mhm.
if you already have something solved, no, you don't need engineers or designers or
Mhm.
inventors. But if you need something solved, yeah, bring in people who are
Mhm.
good at this. And the reason we're good at this is because we like things to work. There's a certain we all like things to be efficient
Mhm.
and work. When
Mhm.
figuring out puzzles, we all love this, and we're just high end puzzle solvers, and it's satisfying. But also, engineers love results, things to actually work.
Mhm.
We don't like theory. We want it to work. That's the satisfaction. Oh, this thing works and it's helping people. And it's about results. And results matter to me because growing up, my dad was a scientist and he was an inventor, and I would see him invent things. And I just was mesmerized by this. I thought it was the greatest superpower ever. It wasn't magic, but it kind of looked like magic. And I wanted to
Mhm.
invent things. And he told me, he said, Daniel, if something in this world doesn't work and you can invent something better. And I
Mhm.
thought, you go, Dad. And that's beautiful. And he also said, I like science because, anybody can claim to know what they're talking about, but, results matter. Who's getting the results? There is a result, linked
Mhm.
to the person who actually knows what's going on.
Mhm.
Results matter. And that always stuck with me. And so as a kid, I started inventing things. I was a kid when mountain bikes started to become a thing. And instead of just buying the mountain bike and leaving it, I started to invent my own parts and then design them test them until they worked better. And then I went to UC Berkeley for engineering school to be professionally trained. How do you look at a complex problem, break it down into its mechanics and mechanisms? You build a prototype, and then you start testing and measuring and collecting data and then tweaking until you get the thing to work consistently. Keyword consistently. That's what makes us excited. So the good news was I was very skilled and also had a proclivity and passion to make things work. And I was trained how to make machines work and objects work and robots work. However, they didn't teach me how to make relationships work. I don't know if I missed that class or maybe that's what was part of quantum theory. I don't know. But I came out of engineering school, very good at making things work. But then I fell in love, and Disney told me we would live happily ever after. But spoiler alert, we did not. In fact, the relationship turned very unhealthy. And I later found out I was at times being emotionally abused. But I was too insecure and codependent to leave. So I made a mistake, Cheryl, that I know nobody in your audience would ever make. I stayed in a relationship way too long. Mm-hmm. And 2 weeks after it was over, someone interrupted me, and my whole system got filled with terror. And then the next day I got an email. Instead of just being a little bit stressed, I was panicking, and I thought, what is going on? I later find out I have severe anxiety and complex PTSD and I'm like, okay, this sucks. Now, just like your audience, they have their limitations. They have their, for lack of a better word, issues, and they want to improve them. So your audience did what I did. We went looking for help, whether it's therapists, psychologists, spiritual teachers, personal development, religion, the books, the videos. You have a savvy audience that is trying to be better, and you went to the experts to be better. That's what I did. Went to therapists, psychologists, spiritual teachers, went to retreats, lived in ashrams. I was probably in a cult. I was definitely in a cult. Did the videos, did CGT, EMDR, EFT, MOUSC. Like, I did all of it. Did ayahuasca, almost licked the toad, didn't do that. But the point is, I spent $100,000 and 10 years.
Jeez.
And all it did was manage it. But so it's still there. It would get worse. And then my family and friends didn't want to be around a person in pain. So my friends and family just walked away, leaving me feeling even more broken and trapped. And I was in my house, curled up in a fetal position, terrified, which then leads to depression because you're just not meant to be afraid all the time. It exhausts you. And I wouldn't have taken my own life because I knew something was unfolding. But man, I get why people do. I was like, this is no way to live. And the experts haven't solved it. So I feel trapped and hopeless. And I kind of had a come to God universe moment. I was like, what? You know, what? I've been at this 10 years and I'm still trapped by this. What am I supposed to learn? Because I tried to learn from all the what am I supposed to learn? What am I missing? And I basically hear this voice that says what my dad said. If something ain't working, invent something better. And I was like, I thought you meant bike parts, not this. But I thought, man, $1 trillion a year gets spent on therapy, psychology, and personal development globally. $1 trillion with a T, and it doesn't usually solve anything. Anxiety's on the rise, depression's on the rise, suicide's on the rise. This stuff, from a perspective of solving it, it ain't working, and people are spending a lot of money for questionable results. And I remember what my dad said, results matter. And I was like, these industries, what I call the improvement industrial complex, not getting great results. So partly out of my own pain, saying no one else is figuring this out. I know how to figure things out. I'm a solver. But also I saw the whole world didn't have a solution. People were just paying for Band-Aids. But that's no way to live. And so I started my own research company with the mission to see, could we reverse engineer a permanent solution for anxiety that was measurable with data and verifiable? Didn't know if we could do it, but I was like, gotta try. And about 3 years in of our program, of our process, which the total took 8 years and over $1 million in R&D, but we got first real data with me. I was one of the early test cases, and I remember waking up one morning and the anxiety and the trauma were basically gone. And I went, all right, well, it's going to come back. It always comes back, but it didn't come back. 1 week goes by, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. The things that used to send my body into terror didn't. And we thought, oh my God, we cracked this. But we didn't really crack it because, okay, I'm one person, great. And it took years. And we said, we want to help millions. So we need to create something much more streamlined and simplified. We need to get it online. We need it to be a process that doesn't involve years and a person's one-on-one time, because that makes it more expensive. So we have an online program. It's all online. It's all automated. It's only 6 weeks. And because we've been testing and optimizing it, we have a 90% success rate. And because we care about results, you know, we only charge at the end when you have measurable data and you track your fear and anxiety levels as you go through the program. This isn't just a feeling. And then also, no matter what I tell your audience, they're going to be skeptical because their fear and anxiety feels complicated. It feels unsolvable. And it's because the experts have confused you and made it seem that way. And there's a lot of stuff on the internet that makes big claims and under delivers. So I don't expect your audience to fully believe me. What matters is results. So at the very end, after I wow you with a whole bunch of cool stuff and you're curious, I'm going to send you to my website to get a free training where you're going to learn one of our techniques and you can apply it to yourself so that you have a real measurable results about how effective these tools are. Do not trust me. Just be open-minded and listen, but then go get it for yourself so you have a real result that you can feel and trust to see that solving fear and anxiety is completely solvable, and it can even be simple.
Wow. Okay. So I want to backtrack just a little bit because this actually ties into a conversation I've had oftentimes with, the last time was just 2 days ago, I think, with an MD who left his traditional cardiology practice to go into alternative medicine because he was seeing that the medical complex, industrial complex, was really not serving the patients well, and that there was another way of doing it that was a lot more effective, without incredible side effects or dangerous surgeries. So the one thing I really like is that, okay, we can do this on our own without pharmaceuticals, because I think we are probably the most overprescribed society in the world. Everybody's on something, and a lot of it is antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications. And of course, that comes not only with the financial cost, but the cost of side effects and the fact that you're stuck in this hamster wheel and you're not getting better. And again, going to all of the therapists and getting the help. And, I went to a therapist for 5 years, which was probably the biggest waste of time and money that I ever spent. And I started training in martial arts, and took a while, but boom, the anxiety, the PTSD resolved eventually, permanently. So I'm so fascinated by this story and the type of work that you do. And I'm sure that the ears of the listeners, I can just hear them and see them perking up right now, of wanting to know a little bit more about how you came upon this solution. And I have a funny feeling, just with the trajectory that you described, that you became very familiar, or maybe even intimate, with the nervous system.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm going to explain how we pulled it off, partly because I think it's incredible. And I want your audience to know this information because it's information that isn't taught. It's the information that can solve this, but the experts don't know this. But also, again, if I tell your audience we're solving fear and anxiety quickly in a way that's simple, they just cannot believe me. But when you understand more of my story and our approach, you'll go, oh, that actually makes sense. Just like with a magic trick. Have you ever noticed that the most incredible magic tricks, then you find out how they work and you're like, oh, like that's it. It was just like a body double. It's always right. You may remember, Cheryl, when David Copperfield made the Statue of Liberty disappear, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, what did he do?" It was like a rotating stage. It was not. It's always something simple. So if you don't know the simple thing, the outcome can seem too good to be true. So I'm going to explain to you the simple thing that we discovered. That's why we're able to do it. Nothing magical or weird or exciting. People will say to me like, Daniel, like, how did you do it? We did it because the experts missed the simple thing that was right under everybody's knows. If you know the story of Florence Nightingale, you know, she was a nurse in the 1850s who saw more soldiers were dying in recovery than in battle. All the experts, the doctors and the generals were like, don't worry about it. It's just part of war. Leave it alone. Well, she cared. She wanted better results. And because she wasn't an expert, she could just pay attention and go looking for a solution. So she's the one that figured out the simple thing of hygiene in the recovery room to stop infection. Like, hey, let's just move the guys away from the toilets, open the windows, and change the bandages. A simple thing. Mm-hmm. And the death rate dropped by 99%. 99. Why? A simple thing under everybody's nose that got missed. So there is historical precedence where if the experts miss it, it doesn't mean it's complicated. It means there can be a simple thing. And when my mom told me that story growing up, she was a nurse, and that's what I told my team before we figured out. I said, maybe there's a Florence Nightingale here. Maybe there's a simple thing the experts missed. So, and part of why, so that's why I will explain to your audience. And another reason we solved it was our approach was just a better approach. Mm-hmm. Okay. The approach that most people do, because this is what they're taught, is psychological or spiritual, right? Mm-hmm. You're feeling some fear and anxiety, fear of rejection, fear of failure, self-doubt, insecurity. You go to, you get some therapeutic, psychological, maybe some spiritual insights. Now, there's value in the psychological, spiritual approach, but it's usually an abstract concept, an idea to give you a framework of understanding, like you have a scarcity mindset, or this is your ego being attached to the outcome. Those are concepts. Now, they're valuable, and if they solve it, great. But if not, they're just theories. How do you solve it? If you want real results quickly, you don't want spiritual and psychological. What you want is mechanical. Mechanical gets it ain't as sexy. It's more fun to be a spiritual person. But if you want the thing solved, you want mechanical. If you're in a restaurant and all of a sudden you start choking and one person walks up to you and says, okay, let's look at your mindset and see that maybe you had a scarcity mindset. And so you were eating the food really quickly. And maybe we should look at that. And maybe the fact that growing up, there wasn't enough food, or also, can you see that this is your ego, that your ego is attached to living, and now you're attracting more scarcity? Like, do you want to hear that, or do you want someone to say, actually, this is a mechanical issue? You have a bit of kale stuck in your windpipe. We're going to add mechanical pressure to your stomach, which transfers mechanical pressure behind the piece of kale, which pops it out so that the air can now mechanically get in and you can live. Do you want, when you're really in a lot of pain and nothing's working, let me ask you, Cheryl, in your audience, do you want spiritual, psychological, or mechanical?
I want the Heimlich maneuver. Get rid of that.
Mechanical.
Right.
So we're engineers. We didn't approach this psychologically or spiritually, partly because that wasn't getting the job done. And also we weren't attached to old paradigms. A lot of the reason they're not innovating is because the therapists, psychologists, spiritual teachers, they learn stuff either in a school or something, and they like it and they share it and they get paid for it. Mm-hmm. And they're fine with that. We're not okay with that because that's not getting the job done. We want a solution. So we approach this from scratch, and engineering and mechanics is a great way to do it, because if you can understand the mechanics of something, you can understand why it's not working and fix it quickly. So our approach is mechanical. So I want to explain to your audience what that means and that you can actually feel what I mean, because it's one thing to say, hey, mechanical approach. Okay, sounds better. But I want to do an exercise, so your audience understands your inner mechanics. And then also it'll give you a feeling experience that fear and anxiety is not a psychological, spiritual issue. It's a mechanical issue. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're going to do a little non-sexual role play right now. Okay. And when I say the word, I'm talking to you, Cheryl, and the audience member who is listening. Hello, audience member, whether you're on the couch, at the gym, on a unicorn, on a hot air balloon, wherever you are in the world, hello. And when I say the word you, I'm referring to you, Cheryl, but also your listener, okay? So let's just do a little practice run to make sure our interactivity is on point. Okay, so when I say the word you, I'm talking to you, Cheryl, and the listener. Okay, pop quiz to you. therapy and psychology are A, getting people to full emotional freedom, or B, keeping people trapped in a hamster wheel of pain and unhappiness?
B.
Gold stars to you, Cheryl, and your listener. All right. Anytime I say the word you, talking about y'all. Here we go. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some things that you will feel it. Now, first inner mechanics lesson is this. Okay. We want clarity. That's what mechanics are. So there's this word. Again, it's really all fear, but we're going to use the word anxiety. People are very confused by what anxiety is, partly because it's a feeling. It's also a diagnosis. It's also a whole lifestyle. However, that word is confusing. It's not precise. It's not mechanical. So let's just take that word out. It's a label that we're putting on a feeling. And that feeling is fear. If you feel fear, you may call it anxiety. You may call it insecurity, self-doubt. You may call it panic. It's just different degrees of fear. So anxiety, mechanically, fear. Okay, what is mechanically causing the fear? The reason human beings feel fear mechanically is because and when they feel unsafe. Every human being, can you see? If you feel unsafe, you will then feel a feeling in your body called fear, and then you may label it anxiety, panic, fear of rejection, self-doubt, insecurity. Can you see that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So first inner mechanics lesson is your audience does not have an anxiety issue. That is a symptom of feeling unsafe. You do not have an anxiety issue. You have a I don't feel safe in my own body issue. Okay. So that's lesson number one. Mechanically, what is anxiety is a symptom of feeling unsafe. All right. So now let's see if you can have an experience that'll show that feeling unsafe and how to feel safe are mechanical, not psychological. So right now, to you, meaning Cheryl, an audience member, let's say that we're friends, which I feel we are. And let's say for a while, I've been a pretty good friend to you. But now let's just say for reasons which you don't understand, I stopped being a good friend to you. And on the count of three, you, meaning you and Cheryl, I want you to say, hey, Daniel, can you help me with something? Okay. On the count of three, I want you to say, hey, Daniel, can you help me with something? Where I'm your friend. On the count of three. 1, 2, 3.
Hey, Daniel, can you help me with something?
No, you are on your own, man. Look, I got a lot of people way more important than you. I'm going to go deal with them. And like, if I help them and get them what they need and there's some scraps left over, I might worry about you. And honestly, you're not a priority. Like I'm trying to get everybody else to like me. And that's my priority, not looking after you. So I want to say I care about you, but I honestly don't. And if you need me, also, if you tell me what you need, again, I don't care. You're on your own. Okay. Do you feel unsafe and anxious or safe and calm when I treat you that way?
Well, I have to be perfectly honest. That is exactly what did happen to me quite a few years ago. It's probably been a little bit over 20 right now, which is what launched me on my journey in martial arts and everything. So when I hear that and go back to the first time that I heard it, I immediately go into that, like shock and horror and, you know, fear and rejection that I felt then. But at this point, it's almost like, all right, well, I can just walk away with my big sticks that you see in the background and take care of myself. But so, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Not only on an intellectual level, but on a visceral, organic level. And again, you can feel that, fight or flight start to kick in, the, sympathetic nervous system, to try and protect myself. And even, like I said, this was over 20 years ago, but it was pretty horrible, obviously, for me to still feel that way.
I can imagine. And everything you should, thank you for being honest with me. Also, sorry to do that to you and bring that up.
Oh,
It was for
no,
the sake of
that's
science,
fine.
but absolutely, you use words like horror. Okay, that's just that's unsafe. Now you know how to get yourself to safety, which is
Mhm,
wonderful, and I'm so grateful that you know how to set boundaries. But this was just the fact that this was just a role play for
mhm,
60 seconds.
mhm,
I think we can understand if we experience this in the real life for longer time, mechanically, a person will feel unsafe.
mhm.
So, we clear on that?
Yes, can I elaborate just, for a few minutes? Because what happens when that did happen, and I don't want to, make a blanket statement that this is, applies to everybody, but from that moment on, the ability to ask for help, I couldn't do it because I didn't want to be rejected again. I didn't want to get that pat and slap across the face again. And so I just kind of stuffed everything down deep inside. And what did that do? It just, again, here comes that snowball starting to roll down the mountain, picking up speed, getting bigger and bigger.
Absolutely. I can fully relate. Your audience
Mhm,
can. Things happen. We feel fear. Of course,
mhm,
the coping mechanism is to protect ourselves, which is human and understandable. But because we're not trained in how to heal it the right way, it's
mhm,
reactive and it often ends up making things worse because we don't address the root cause.
mhm,
And yes, we've all experienced like, yes, I was treated poorly, felt horrible, then I responded, and it long term made it worse because we
mhm,
reinforce these patterns. That's how I
mhm,
ended up with the PTSD and anxiety. So, anyway,
mhm,
this will bring up a lot for people, but just for the
mhm,
sake of clarity, what I wanted to show is like mechanically, if I talk that way, a human being is going to feel
mhm,
unsafe, which will create a
mhm,
feeling of fear, which you may call
mhm,
anxiety. We clear?
mhm.
Okay. Now I'm just going to amp it up again, just so again we can just see the mechanics. Like this isn't theory, and someone says, "Well, not me." Like you'll feel it. This is
Yeah.
mechanical. Okay. So I've been treating you poorly as a friend, and you're starting
Mhm,
to feel unsafe and anxious around me, especially from this going on. Okay, so now let's say you come to me and on the count of three say, the way you're treating me leaves me feeling unsafe. Okay?
okay.
On the count of three, to you, meaning you, Cheryl, an audience member, I want you to say, the way you're treating me makes me feel unsafe. And only if you can do this exercise without actually triggering trauma. If this feels like a
Okay.
danger zone for you, do not do it. And I did have 1 semester of acting training, so I am very convincing
Mhm,
as this person. It's the furthest thing for me, but you know,
mhm.
so also protect yourself. But on the count of three, if you can do it safely, after I've treated you poorly, you feel unsafe and anxious. On the count of three, say, the way you're treating me is leaving me feeling unsafe. On the count of
Okay.
three, say, the way you're treating me is leaving me feeling unsafe. 1, 2, 3.
Daniel, the way you're treating me is making me feel unsafe.
Why do you feel that? What is wrong with everything is fine? There's no tigers around. Why do you feel unsafe? What is wrong with? First of all, stop bothering me with your feelings, which are crazy, by the way. They make no sense, and I don't want to hear it. Okay, I want to go live my life, and your feelings are getting in the way of me. So just go away, figure it out on your own.
Okay, so I think you actually
Hold
saw
on,
my facial expression.
tell me.
Well, that's exactly what happened with my what was at the time my very best and dearest friend. And she says, "What is wrong with you? I don't like the way you're acting, and all you ever do is complain, and you have responsibilities, and those responsibilities are to me." So this is a friend I had, Daniel, for 30 years. For 30 years, we were almost like, connected, glued at the hip. But you know what? Over time, I wasn't liking the way that she was and what she was becoming. It was getting our friendship was becoming darker and darker. And, she was just going down this path where had to break up with her, and I knew it. And it was like, my goodness, how do you tell somebody that you've been friends with for 30 years, you haven't liked them for the past 15 and been trying to break up with them for the past 10? Well, thank goodness she gave me an out. And it was like, this is how you do it. Boom, done. And life got so
Oh,
much better.
I'm sorry you endured that. It's extra painful when it comes from someone we trust,
Yeah.
and that it went on for so long. I'm glad you got out of it. But yeah, I have been in my own trapped poor treatment from people that did love me, but were limited. And so we've all been there.
Mhm.
Okay. And just for the sake of it, again, if anybody or I in this role play treat you that way, is that going to then make you feel, when you're already feeling unsafe and anxious, if I talk to you that way, is that going to make you feel more safe and calm, or less safe and anxious?
So are you asking me to respond as the audience member or as the participant, the role play?
Sorry. When I talk to you that way, you can answer, Cheryl, or audience
Okay.
member. When I spoke to you that way, after you told me how you felt and I responded that way, when you saw that behavior, did that help you feel safe and calm, or less safe and more anxious?
So I'm a little bit probably atypical because, I have gone through that experience before, and having 20 plus years experience as a martial artist and learning a lot of techniques along the way. It's just like, well, fine, that, I mean, it didn't impact me at all when you said that.
I appreciate your honesty. Because it's just a role play and it's
Right.
not
Right.
real. But can you understand that just in this sort of role play model, that behavior can most likely make a person feel unsafe?
Well, not only unsafe, but I don't want to be melodramatic, but almost wanting to harm themselves.
Yes.
Because if you are so worthless that you're a very close friend or family member doesn't have time for you, or diminishes you or marginalizes what you're experiencing, that's not an empowering type of relationship. And it leaves you feeling pretty worthless.
Yes. I mean, there's so many layers and levels that I've
Mm.
experienced and you've experienced. And it's not that I don't want to talk about that, because I love these topics, but I also want to keep clarity and simplicity to, which is that in two situations, behaviors are almost
Mhm.
invariably, almost mechanically going to make a person feel unsafe and anxious.
Mhm.
That's what I'm trying to share. And yes, all these other things, but just that behavior mechanics.
Mhm.
Okay, so that behavior will mechanically make a person feel unsafe and then fearful and anxious.
Mhm.
Okay, so now you don't just want me to make you feel horrible. The beauty of mechanics is if you know why something pushes something in one direction, that you can flip the mechanics to then move it in the other direction. That's the beauty of mechanics. It's systematic, it's easy to understand. So theoretically, if I can make you feel unsafe and anxious, if I understand the mechanics correctly, I should be able to make you feel safe and calm. So let's see. Do you think I can pull it off? Let us see. All right. So on the count of three, I want you to say the same thing of, hey, the way you're treating me is leaving me feeling unsafe. On the count of three, to you, meaning you, Cheryl, an audience member, I want you to say, the way you're treating me leaves me feeling unsafe. 1, 2, 3.
The way you're treating me is making me feel unsafe.
I am so sorry. I am so glad you told me. Oh, God.
Mhm.
The way you feel makes sense given how I've treated you. And so there's nothing wrong with you. It's smart. Anyone would feel this way. And I'm glad you told me, because it's telling me that I need to be a much better friend to you.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry it took this long for me to figure it out. But moving forward, I want to do whatever it takes to be on our team together and rebuild the trust that I've broken. So thank you again for telling me how you feel.
Mhm.
Okay. Does that help make you feel unsafe and anxious, or does that help you feel safer and less anxious?
It makes me feel validated. That probably is not a typical response you would get.
Well, you do feel validated because I did validate you.
Mhm.
But also, would that make you feel less safe and anxious, or more safe and calmer?
Well, more safe and calmer.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's the point.
Yeah.
Yes, other things, but again,
Mhm.
we're trying to simplify. And my point is that we have mechanics within us, and there are things
Mhm.
that can happen that will almost invariably mechanically make us feel unsafe and anxious.
Mhm.
This isn't psychological or spiritual or religious, it is mechanical. Now, in this role play, we are friends. We are in
Mhm.
a friend relationship.
Mhm.
And when I treat you poorly, it leads to unsafe. When I treat you better, it leads to calm.
Mhm.
But can you also see that on some level, you are in a relationship with yourself and
Mhm.
you are not always so nice to yourself? And so
Mhm.
the same mechanics that could apply from a human, a friend to you,
Mhm.
could also mechanically create unsafe and anxiety just in how you treat yourself.
Oh, absolutely 100%. And I think that I was probably the queen of self-flagellation. Nobody can beat yourself up or beat you up as much as you can beat yourself up.
That is true.
Mhm.
I used to beat the crap out of myself. I'm sure your
Mhm.
audience can relate. It's an epidemic. We all know that. We're not so, we're very hard on ourselves.
Mhm.
However, what people aren't seeing, and we saw in the data, was this behavior and many others were mechanically causing the unsafety and anxiety. So that's
Mhm.
the part I want people to see, is that this may be actually simpler. So just in our role play, can you see that mechanically there may be things that we're experiencing either from others or ourselves that mechanically will leave a person feeling unsafe and anxious?
Absolutely.
And then can you see, then therefore, if you knew what those things were, you could then move things around such that you would feel safe and calm.
Absolutely. So then my question to you is that a technique that you teach your clients to do for themselves rather than rely on somebody else to help them feel safe and
So the
calm?
short answer is yes. As you go through
Okay.
the program,
Mhm.
there are 4 modules, and I mean what you're doing and learning is 4 times a day for 5 minutes. You are relating to yourself in a way such that you just start to feel safer and safer. We do not solve anxiety.
Mhm.
Anxiety is a symptom of not feeling safe. And
Mhm.
that's what people actually want. If you lower anxiety, all right, that's nice. You're not in pain.
Mhm.
But I hope you can see the value. What if you,
Mhm.
Cheryl, and your whole audience could wake up every morning and no matter what's going on, feel fundamentally safe from the
Mhm.
inside out? Can you see then
Mhm.
that no matter, life will be challenging and it will push on you? You'll
Mhm.
feel it, but can you see how a life would be so much better if we didn't just lower anxiety, but your audience and you could wake up each morning feeling 100% safe no matter what's going on? Can you see why that's a total paradigm shift?
Oh, absolutely. And I also believe that the world would be a better place. I mean, because there's so much fear, and there you go, anxiety. There's so much fear, and I think that's almost like a being shoved down our throat. Oh, this is going to happen. That's going to happen. The world's going to blow up. We're all going to die. Well, yeah, we're all going to die someday. But it's just this constant fear mongering that we need to get away from.
Well, you're not going to get away from it. It's going to come. But if you feel safe from the inside out, it doesn't affect you.
Right.
That's the beauty of it. If you try to manage anxiety, there's still things that will make you anxious.
Hmm.
When we were working, people came to us during the pandemic saying, "Oh, the pandemic made me anxious." And we show them, "No, you feel unsafe and this program restores safety in your body." And then one of our clients, Andy, he was from Colorado. No, where was he from? No, he wasn't from Colorado. Where was Andy from? I think he was from Buffalo. Anyway, we had multiple people. I remember he reached out to me though, and he said,
Hmm.
"Daniel, this is weird. I'm feeling the calmest I've ever felt during the pandemic."
Hmm.
Also, we see our kids and they're, oh, it's social media making them anxious. No, it's not.
Hmm.
Social media is a pressure on your kids and your teens, but they feel fundamentally unsafe from within. And then social media activates that lack of safety. How do I know? Clients come to me and they say, not only am I anxious, but I'm raising an anxious child. And it's heartbreaking because I can't stop it. I don't know. I learned habits from my parents and I know I'm
Hmm.
passing it on to my kids, but I don't know how. And I said, well, we're going to show you how to have a daily habit such that you feel safe. And then when you know how to do that, you can model it and share it with your child.
Hmm.
And she said, I mean, I'm happy to just do the program for me, but if you could do that, that would be incredible. So her name was Stacy. She's from Washington, D.C. She reached out to my team around week 5 of the program. And she said, I just want to thank you so much. And we said, oh, well, we saw from your data, because we track it, that your anxiety is almost gone. She said, yeah, but what I really want to thank you for is I talked to my teenage daughter yesterday, and I said, how was school? And she said, oh, well, I got bullied yesterday, but I don't know, it didn't affect me. And the
Yeah.
mom asked her what happened. And she said, well, I've been watching what you were doing, and I sort of did what you've been doing. So I still got bullied. I didn't like it, but it didn't affect me. And she said, I can't thank you enough. So if you're a parent out there and you not only want to know how to feel safe from within, but also raise children who are safe from within, that's the value of the program.
hmm Wow, that is absolutely gold. I mean, you cannot put a price on that, considering how much bullying there is out there and the effects that it has, especially on teenagers when they're just, in that state of confusion all the time and the hormones and everything. Wow. So say it once again, just exactly
Say
what you said.
which part? There were so many brilliant gems, Cheryl. Which one?
There were so many brilliant gems, but one of the even, one of the benefits of this incredible program that you developed is not only helping, people deal with their own issues of feeling unsafe, but their children will model that behavior and learn from that experience. So instead of raising an anxious child, and I'm using air quotes here, she is now raising one who's confident, calm, and resilient.
Yes.
So I
I'm sure I said
paraphrased.
it beautifully, but man, that was darn good as well. So I'm going to take yours. And that's exactly right. Because the experts don't understand this problem well enough, the best they can hope to do
Mhm,
is symptom management.
mhm,
Well, okay, so you help your kid manages their fear and anxiety, but they still got it, which means they're holding back in life. They're still insecure. They're still affected. You're managing it. What our paradigm is, you feel safe from within. That leads to
mhm,
confidence, to resilience,
mhm,
as you said. But also, they become more authentic. They go out into the world. They follow their dreams. Everything you want a happy child. Well,
mhm,
happiness is inversely proportionate to fear. We figured out
mhm,
how to basically solve fear by allowing a person to feel safe. So your child will naturally make smarter choices, better relationships, follow their
mhm,
heart, because fear isn't knocking them off as it has us. So, man, I'm telling you, if I had kids, and I don't, I help sort of people and nourish the world this way. But oh my God, to give
mhm,
them that fundamental foundation to feel safe
mhm,
from within, had we all experienced that, I'm sure we could see we would have made a better life, but you can at
mhm.
least create a better life with your child.
I want to segue a little bit. I'm getting a little tangential,
I
but
just want to say one more thing before I hear your
sure.
excellent question. I know what I'm saying. Your audience is maybe nodding their head, going like, whoa, this guy is dropping some knowledge. This sounds good. But again, because everything has failed you in the past, you're not going to fully believe me. This will seem too good to be truth. So again, I
Mhm,
get that. That's just, you're paying attention. So
mhm,
again, at the end, get the free training, apply the technique so you can see
mhm,
why you feel unsafe. You'll understand that role play better of like why you
mhm,
felt unsafe, but also more
mhm,
importantly, how to restore your system to feel safe and feel it in your body so you have a real result so that you know what I'm talking about isn't just theory, but it's
mhm,
real. But it's
mhm,
also not just theory because this, at the very least, there's me. Now we
mhm,
track all our data with our
mhm,
clients. We know this
mhm,
works, but just me. Okay. This approach that we developed, I was the first person. I was in the fetal position, couldn't leave my house with
mhm,
depression. Okay. I've been chill as a cucumber for the last 10 years because I feel safe from the inside out, which means I have an open heart and I have tons of energy. This energy, this is not cocaine. This is an open hearted, safe person expressing
mhm,
his magnificence. So if you're like, oh, how do we know it works? Listen to me. Either I'm a psychopath who's completely lying or what we've
mhm.
discovered is truly revolutionary. I invite you to consider the second.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I love the fact that you said, your heart is open. That's one thing I learned and it just came to me, in martial arts is our working stance is we're way back on the back leg. And, one hand is kind of hovering over our heart and our other hand is pointing toward our attacker, kind of symbolically attacking their heart. And it was after about a year that I realized, oh my goodness, now that I can protect my heart, I can give it more freely because it's not a threat. I know how to protect it. But I just wanted to tell you as an example, I was teaching a self-defense class. This was several years ago up in this small little mountain town in Bailey. And there was a group of women. There were probably only 10 of them, and 2 of them were teenagers, and they were very young. They were sisters, and one of them was just bouncing off the wall, very loquacious and talkative. I mean, she was just a ball of energy, and the other one was just very quiet, withdrawn, and I just thought she was shy. So as the class was, and she was holding back, and as the class wore on, I was trying to draw her out, and she had come. The 2 girls came with their grandmother, brought them to this class, and I said, "Well, for example, let's pretend somebody was picking on you at school," and she looked and, her eyes just went right to her grandmother. And her grandmother said, "Well, that's why she's here. That's what's happening at school." And it was like, okay. So didn't talk about it anymore, but we started working on movement, posture, eye contact, and just little subtle things. And all of a sudden you could just see her spirit start to come out. And I went up to her and I nudged her a little bit and I says, "You're starting to get it now, aren't you?" And she goes, "Oh, yeah." So the next day, I guess she went to school, and I don't know what happened, but I know no violence occurred. But I got an email from her grandmother 2 days later and said that school is fine now. There is not a problem. And that her granddaughter said that that one class changed her life forever. So you never know. I mean, and I think the point I want to make is that our nervous system, because that's what you refer to and that's what you're working with, is so incredibly malleable and flexible that we can take ourselves out of that fear and fight or flight. And you're giving people an incredible gift to be able to do that for themselves. That sense of empowerment is incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, to us, we're not only are we literally saving lives, some people either have no life because of fear and anxiety, or they're actually thinking of ending their life. And this was 6 months ago. Jonathan from London said, I'm about to give birth to my son, but I'm thinking of killing myself. And he said, but I met somebody at a party who'd worked with you. And I've tried everything, but they swore by it. So, and since I don't pay until the very end, there's no risk to try it. Like, I'm skeptical, but let's try it. And so week 3, he just said, "Oh my God, this works. I'm not trapped. I'm not going to be a scared father." And
Wow.
the thought of ending it is now gone. Now I have hope. So not only did we sort of save his life, he did the work, but the structure, but his kid has a father. And so we're affecting lives at such a high level, not just lowering the pain, but activating people to what they're meant to do. And it's not because of the concepts, it's because of the engineering. We figured out a simple approach. And then it's not just the theory. Once we had the theory, what we saw was, first of all, the reason we're solving it is because we saw 2 key things. The one is the reason everyone hasn't solved it. Number one reason is they didn't want to solve it, because it's a way better business model to just learn stuff and always have people coming back. The money is in the management. The satisfaction is in the solution. But also, they're not, people in the improvement industrial complex aren't Machiavellian, but they learn some things and they pass it on and they get paid for it. Like, they're fine with that. We're not. We wanted to solve it. And so we could look at this with fresh eyes. And the first thing we saw was to challenge everything. It's called mental health, okay, which tells us it's coming from the mind, mental. And if that got the job done, fine, it's in the mind. But we said the mental, saying it's in the mind is getting horrible results. Is it in the mind? And the second we asked that question, it was clear it wasn't the mind. I mean, just basic things like, do people say, I think anxious or I feel anxious? I feel anxious. Or, I think scared or I feel scared. I feel it. Where do you feel it? Well, you feel it in your throat, your chest, your heart, your stomach. So the experts tell us that this stuff is a problem of the mind. But listen to those words: throat, heart, chest, stomach. Is that the mind to you, or does that sound more like the body?
Sounds more like the body, but I'm a physical therapist, so.
Yes. Now, it's obvious once you say it. I mean, this is very simple. The implications of what I'm saying is not that this isn't obvious. Your audience kind of already knows this. It's in the body. They feel it in the body. The issue is the experts have confused everybody and sent them to the mind. The mind is a symptom of the body. If you feel fear in your body, your mind will start spinning, thinking there's a problem. The problem is the experts didn't know this, and they've been telling everyone focus on the mind. That's just a symptom. So you can't shut it off. Then you think you have a weak mind, you beat yourself up, but you'll never get to a solution. So to your audience out there that it has fear and anxiety, and you haven't solved it, it is not your fault. The experts confused you and sent you to the wrong location. You do not have an anxiety issue, you have a location issue. And I hope you can understand that if you go from the wrong location of the problem to the right location of the problem, that we could solve this in a way that's simple. Can you see that?
Absolutely. And the other thing I wanted to point out, especially since you're talking about the body and you're talking about some major organs here, or function, throat, heart, stomach, that if you live in this state of fear and anxiety, it's going to take an incredible toll on your physical health and on your organs, and it will lead to disease. And it's going to, I mean, you're going down that again, that's that snowball just going down that hill. So how can people get a hold of you, Daniel? How can they work with you? This is just fantastic information, but not only that, it's just an incredibly positive message of hope for the future for all of us.
Thank you. I'm glad that you feel that. This information I'm sharing, again, I know your audience won't fully believe me. They can't. They've had this a very long time. They've tried so many things and nothing can solve it. So their experience tells them they're kind of stuck with this, or that it's very complicated. So I don't expect what I've said to convince anybody. I'm not trying to. However, what I'm trying to do is share a perceptual framework for your audience to go, wait, this guy's making sense. And if what he's saying is true, then there's hope. Because if they can see, wait a minute, I was sent to the mind, and if it's not there, then yeah, of course I didn't solve it. And if you go to the right location, maybe we could solve it. Also, we're in the nervous system, and the nervous system is just like any other system in the body. It's got the word system in there. So we saw that essentially you have a system in your body called the nervous system. It's malfunctioning and it's fallen into a state of disrepair. It's crashed and it's making everybody extra nervous, aka fearful and anxious. So you don't have an anxiety problem. You have a system in your body called the nervous system that's crashed and cranking out too much nervousness. However, the reason it's good that it's in the body is mechanical. Arteries, ligaments, heart, it's all mechanical. And we know, we already have an experience that systems in the body can crash, causing pain, but then they can be repaired. If you don't brush and floss, you'll need a root canal. And then when you bite a carrot, instead of feeling the pressure of the carrot, you feel pain. It ain't the carrot. You have crashed, unhealthy teeth. But we know you don't have to live with tooth pain for the rest of your life. It's a system. And dentists have figured out the mechanics of how to repair a teeth and bring you back to health. If you don't eat right, your heart will crash. Pain. You don't have to live with heart attacks. They open you up, they open up the artery, they change your diet. So people say, well, how do you do it? We know systems in the body can fail and be repaired. We just did it with the nervous system. So if you know the teeth can be repaired and a heart can be repaired and a knee can be repaired, why can't your nervous system be repaired? And it can. And that's why our program is called Nervous System Reset. Phase 1, you learn through a set of exercises to repair it, basically bring it back to health. Phase 2 is you retrain it, meaning you rebalance it back to calibration. And phase 3 is how to maintain it moving forward. Now that the system's healthy, what's the brushing and flossing you need to do every day to keep things healthy? Now, I know this all sounds good, but again, they don't believe me. So I'm not even going to tell you about the program. I'm going to send people to the free training because I want to make things simple. Okay. This is the way we can help people. Simple. So I'm going to send them to my website. My name is Daniel Packard. I like things simple. What do you think my website is, Cheryl?
DanielPackard.com.
Gold stars. KISS. Keep it simple, sexy, simple. Then you're going to go to that website, which is my name with .com. And then there's going to be a training. Now, I like to keep things simple. Remove obstacles to get your audience help. What do you think I'm charging for this 45-minute training?
Well, I'm guessing that it might be a gift to the listeners. It might be free.
Excellent intuition. Gold stars. It is free. Why? Because that makes it simple. So I invite you to be curious and just be curious, and you download that free training. And what you're going to learn is 2 key things. Through 2 experiences, you're going to understand what you've been doing that's making your nervous system feel unsafe and anxious. And trust me, you have not heard this before. This is new. Then you're going to understand what would be necessary to basically repair your nervous system and bring it back to health so you feel safe. That's just theory. Then at the very end, you're going to apply one of our techniques. It's not the whole system, but it's one of our best techniques. And you're going to apply it to yourself. And you are going to measurably, because we're going to measure it, you're going to measure it, you will feel measurably safe and calmer. Some people have written to me saying that they felt a level of safety and calm they haven't felt since childhood. And that's from a 3-minute exercise. And you will have a result to show you that not only fear and anxiety can be solved, but more importantly, that it's simple and it could be simple for you. So if you think 45 minutes is a good use of time to maybe feel safe for the rest of your life, so you can be more happy and more joyful and show up as the authentic, powerful person that you and me and the family and your relationships and everybody needs. If that seems like a good use of your time, then go to danielpackard.com and get the free training and see for yourself what's possible for you moving forward. Trust me, your future self will thank you.
You know, it is absolutely brilliant. I just love this concept. It is absolutely brilliant. So just want to make a little note here for the audience. Hey, you don't have to believe Daniel, but I believe him because I understand the nervous system and I understand how flexible it is. And the fact that he was able to break this down and put it in this program is, I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, why did it take so long for somebody to come up with this? Because they needed an engineer.
Thank you. They did. And they wanted to solve it. They didn't want to, they're okay not, they don't, the industry doesn't care a ton about real results. You know, the father of modern psychology was Freud. He was a chain smoking cocaine addict. And the fact that that was going on, everyone said, you know what? Let's follow this guy. No, no, you don't. Like, they should have seen that and go, let's re-examine our approach because look at the data on this guy. But they don't. They're like, ooh, cool. Sounds cool. Yeah, sounds cool, but doesn't get great results. The industry just is not results focused, and it's costing everybody. So the reason we're getting results is because it actually mattered to us. And it's actually what matters to your audience. I appreciate your audience wanting to learn about themselves and always be on a journey of self-discovery. That's great. But when you're in pain and nothing's working, what you want is results. And to get results, you go find people that get results and measure their results and back up their results. Testify.
That's another thing I love about it is it's hard science. It's documented. These are the results. You can measure your results. And that's one thing that was a problem I had with let's talk about it. And I don't want to talk about it. Then I went to the dojo and I learned how to hit people. And it's like, ooh, this is a lot more fun.
It's results.
Yeah. And results matter. And when you're dealing with something like this, it's life threatening, or it can be. And especially like you said, that one guy who was expecting his first child and who was thinking about killing himself.
No, I mean, people know results matter. We've just been sort of, because the improvement industrial complex doesn't deliver great results, there's no option. We just tolerate it. It's like being in an abusive relationship. You're just used to the abuse and you just tolerate it.
Yeah.
And sadly, now when we have something better, people are too skeptical because now they can't receive something better. But also, people just tolerate poor results. I was talking to a client. Her name was Amy. She was from San Luis Obispo in California. And she comes to me and she said, oh my God, I've been anxious and I had panic attacks since I was a kid, but I've been seeing a therapist for 7 years and she's incredible. And she's really helped me not have as many panic attacks. Now, I didn't say anything. Fine. The therapist can't solve her panic attacks. That's okay. I'm fine with that. It's the fact that she said 7 years I'm still having panic. That's not the problem. The problem is she said, I have a great therapist. No, no, you didn't. You had a well-intentioned one, but results. So people, I'm trying to wake people up and just say, like, kind of have a come to reality moment of like, stop paying all this
Mhm.
money. Man, I spent $100,000 and never stopped and went, man, that's crap results. So at least waking up people
Mhm.
to the importance of results. You would demand it from a mechanic, from a landscaper, from a contractor,
Mhm.
demand it from the people that are taking care of your happiness.
I actually have someone who I'm relatively close to that had been seeing the same therapist for 30 years. And, I'm scratching my head going, really? And the therapist was retiring, but offered to keep her on because she had been with her for so long. And I was like, isn't the end result wanting to not need a therapist?
And here's what gets me. Again, if all that therapist or the other therapist or if that's the best you can do, that's fine. We all do the best we can. We wanted
Yeah,
to solve anxiety. It was not easy. Okay. So
yeah.
if someone didn't devote their entire life to this and didn't figure it out, I'm not judging anybody.
Yeah.
What I don't like is that it doesn't seem to matter to them. I spent 15 grand on my therapist. My therapist never said, "Hey, you've spent $15,000. I haven't gotten great results with you. And I just want to acknowledge the limitations of my abilities.
Yeah.
And maybe I can help you. Maybe I won't
Yeah.
charge." Like, it didn't matter to them.
Right.
And it should matter to them. If you come into the ER with a heart attack, I've heard doctors from ER, when they lose a patient, they feel bad as well. You
Hmm.
should,
Oh,
because
yeah.
you're human. So when every now and then when someone goes through our program, we're not always sure why. It's only 6 weeks, so
Hmm.
it's not a lot of time. We don't help them as much as we can. A, we don't charge them
Hmm.
because that's not right. But B, I'll reach out to them and say, you know what, I'm so sorry that we
Hmm.
couldn't help you more. You trusted us. It's not your fault. We're still figuring this out, but I just want to acknowledge we didn't help you. It matters to us. That's
Hmm.
my issue. If you're a therapist who sees someone from 30 years, it should matter to you and turn to your client, say, I can't, but it doesn't matter to them. I mean, it doesn't
Hmm.
matter enough to them to stop doing it. Let's put it that way.
Hmm.
They must care, but the industry tolerates it. So the industry is not changing.
Hmm.
It makes a lot of money. They're in their comfort zone. So it's up to your listeners, your consumer,
Hmm.
to wake up. Now, this sounds great, but as far as we know, we're getting the best results out there. So it's one thing to say, Daniel's right. Stop paying for, well, no one else is getting results. So it's not that simple, you know?
Right.
Um, but be aware. Start demanding more for your money and your time.
Hmm.
If that leads you to us, fantastic. If not, just be mindful that the people that you pay to help you are well intentioned, but may not be helping you as much as they could given the time and money. And just see it for what it is.
Hmm.
And don't
So,
blame yourself. Do
oh,
not blame yourself,
good,
which you
good
will,
point.
because I did. This is not your fault. You are not broken. The
Hmm.
experts were well intentioned, but had an incomplete understanding of things and have left you with the root cause never addressed. So it stayed there and gotten worse. You are not broken. You are not, there's nothing wrong with you. They just never figured out how to solve it. And so you've
Hmm.
still had it. You are
Hmm.
not broken. The improvement industrial complex is. It's not your fault. And if you want proof, come work with us because we'll help you feel better and it'll lift the shame and the guilt because you realize this wasn't your fault and it was solvable all along if you had the proper tools, the proper location, and the proper approach.
Absolutely. I always say that the body and the mind has an incredible capacity to heal itself as long as we give it the correct tools and environment to do so.
It's very true, which nobody's going to figure out if people keep telling people it's a problem in the mind.
Yeah, right.
It is in the body. It's super easy. It's not easy, but you figure out how to heal the body. We all know it.
Hmm. Hmm.
But the experts, after 100 years of poor results, and there's a system in the body called the nervous system, and you got millions of people extra nervous, the experts were like, oh, it's a problem of the mind. What? You guys had 100 years to figure this out. Anxiety's on the rise. There's a system in the body called the nervous system, and you guys
Hmm.
didn't clue in and just go, why
Hmm.
don't we go there? There's a system that's got the word right in there. Maybe we should look there. I don't get it, man, but we did, and I want your audience to get it and get the free training at danielpackard.com.
Well, Daniel, congratulations on what you have managed to accomplish. I think that's absolutely phenomenal. And I am so excited for you. I'm excited for your clients. I'm excited for my listeners that they now have a true path of healing anxiety, or fear, let's call it, permanently. I mean, that's just amazing without pharmaceuticals and giving people their life back. I mean, that's such an amazing gift that you give, and just such, again, the message of hope. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I want to say one thing just so we're clear, because there's two ways to look at this: lowering the pain or unlocking someone's potential. So I keep
Mm,
saying anxiety because that's the main pain point that we address right now. You may be listening to this saying, I don't have anxiety, or it's like manageable. Okay.
mhm,
But what if you felt safe? And that thus you may call it insecure, self
mhm,
doubt, fear of rejection, fear of failure. Those are other symptoms of feeling unsafe. And those may not cripple you.
mhm,
However, they are slowing you down from being the fully authentic. It's affecting your sales. It's affecting your ability to communicate and to be honest and authentic. So your audience
mhm,
may not struggle with anxiety, but almost every human on the planet, because they feel unsafe because their nervous system is unhealthy, they've either got self-doubt, fear of rejection, fear of failure, or insecurity. So if you would like those gone also
mhm.
to unlock your full potential and to be happier, then also come see us.
Excellent. Well, thanks again for being on the show, Daniel. This has really been a lot of fun, as well as educational, as well as impactful. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. Wow, what an incredible episode. Please do share this with everybody you know, whether they have fear, and I'm using air quotes, anxiety, or anything else, because I think we all could use a little boost of confidence and a nervous system reset. We live in times that are a little bit crazy. We get way too much negative information shoved down our throats. So just remember that we can heal our nervous system. We can live to our full potential. We can live a life of joy, happiness, peace, and calm. Daniel can help you do that. So do go to his website, do the 45-minute complimentary training. That's very generous, and see what results you can get, because nobody should live in fear. And that is the way of the FemiNinja.